Good afternoon, everyone. I thought I had the graveyard shift, but poor Liz, you've got that. Right, okay. Just want to... I've still got Procure Pluses up there. Bear with me. So, for those that you don't know me, my name's Tony Cubitt, National Sales Director of Vericon. For the last sort of 2.5 years, I've been running up and down the country, delivering the delights of what IoT can bring solutions. Solutions is what we're all about. We exist really for three main reasons. The first and foremost is to save organisations money. That's the main driver in this, of course, and to help you operate more efficiently. We've heard lots of talk and good presenters today about the use of data, and data in itself is of no use unless you're using it wisely, and the importance of being able to run more efficiently and do things different. So what I would sort of give an analogy is, in the old days when someone gets a cheque through the post, maybe Auntie Mabel gives you some money or whatever, you had to go to the bank, you had to drive your car, park your car, go and pay it in, and now it's just a case of a cheque maybe not even exists, but even if it did, you can just scan it and it goes straight into your account. And it's with Vericon, it's all about just trying to make things simpler, quicker, more efficient. So saving money is the first sort of objective. The second is to help you provide a better overall service to your residents, less interruption to their heating and hot water, that kind of thing. And thirdly, to help you on your carbon footprint journey, reducing them emissions. So I'm going to give you a very high-level overview because it's a very comprehensive system. I won't have time to explain it all today, and I don't want to bore you with it all. But by all means, come and ask me afterwards if you have any questions. But I'm also going to mix it up a little bit. All right, there's been lots of talk today, but you're the experts in the room. So my colleague at the second part of the presentation, we're going to get you to answer some very basic questions. A bit of fun, really, liven it up. All right. So Vericon itself, definitely not a one-trick pony in IoT world. We have, as you can see on screen, excuse me, a number of areas that we work and have solutions in. Heating, probably, I would say, has been predominantly our bread and butter. We're experts on understanding agnostic across the range of like boilers, not just limited to a particular brand or model or anything like that. And when I talk about, say, boilers, I mean when they break down, when they hurt, when they're not performing very well, when they're overactive, when something can be done better. Basically, all of the diagnostics will be constantly reading from that boiler 24/7. And as soon as it goes wrong, real-time, instant notification to those that need to know. Now, also, we do work in emergency lighting, so we can automate them processes. I know some of the clients in this room, I believe, have already used our system, which is good. We do air source heat pumps. I think my colleague earlier was talking about, the driver to get these out there, rightly or wrongly. But do you know what? What I've been hearing is there's a massive shortage of air source heat pump engineers. You might be able to get them installed, but when they go wrong, there is a big shortage in the industry across the UK. So it's really vitally important to understand where it is, what's wrong with it, and what part or parts you're likely to need to fix it. So the nature of the faults is really important, and that's what we can deliver. Then we have the environmental side. Goes without saying that these days, damp and mould, and not just that, linking in with fuel poverty, and being able to prove the concept of something. If you've changed the heating system in a property, or you're getting complaints, property's too hot, too cold, just being able to prove it. And the use of environmental sensors within the home, there's not many of them, really, really helpful, and that data is massively insightful. We also can do, on the system, we can monitor energy consumption within a property. That can be on a total, like the incoming mains, or it can be on up to 3 individual circuits within a property. So useful maybe if you've got like a heat pump, retrofit in there, or solar PV, and you wanted to be able to prove pre, during and post for PAS 2035, etc. And also being able to give that information to your residents as well, to be able to understand the energy usage in their homes. So these little sensors, devices, there's only really 4 or 5, can be used for the greater good. One other thing I should say, I'll go back, is that when you're considering tech, and these are the conversations I have with clients, it's a massive, whichever way round you look at it, it's not free, it's going to cost. Yeah, of course I could stand up here and talk about ROIs and different things, but more than that, you need to look at the future proofing of it, because having a system that is closed protocol, if someone doesn't make it, you can't have it. That's not good. So this system, as you can see, it's really holistic, and it is an open protocol system. So it's designed so if approved third-party suppliers come on with other types of devices, we've already done it with a company called AD. We can read the filters on the boilers, etc. It's nothing to do with us, but we can bring them in and overlay that data. It just means it's future-proofed. And we understand the data journey as well. It's not just for you, it's actually for your residents. It's really important. A lot of the feedback I get is we've got all this data. In fact, if on about 5,000 properties, this system can collect in excess of 5 million data points a week. You're never going to be able to handle that. But we can deal with that, and through the use of AI and reporting, we get the right data to the right people at the right time. What you don't want is someone's email getting peppered, with loads of notifications. It's not about that, and it's about scaling it up as well at the right time. But certainly with I was saying about the residents, where possible, we want to be able to get them on board and help cultivate a sort of culture of responsibility in the homes where possible, and be able to see that data means that you're not then having a big brother kind of attitude towards it. So, some common landlord challenges, some of the things that the conversations I have, these are the sort of areas where the solutions we provide are really helpful. So, for example, reactive repairs. If I said to you, the art of the possible is you can be proactive. You do not have to. Some of the things that the technology can report on can mean that you can see a potential fault before it's even caused any hassle, before there's any loss of service, hot water and heating, that kind of thing. So if you don't understand what's going on with a boiler when it's starting to hurt before it breaks down is really, really important. And that sort of information can be fed through in real time. One of the devices we do, I'm not going to go too much technical on it, but essentially, I think we're talking, one of the gents earlier was saying about driving down the engineer visits unnecessary. Yeah, well, we find that in the colder months that we're coming out of now, a lot of the gas people we talk to commonly, and particularly with DLOs like yourselves, there's a lot of low pressure call outs, sometimes over 50% in the heating season. And it can just be, and often is, just a simple repressurise and away they go. But whether that's £80, £100, £120, £100 say, that's every single time, that's an awful lot of money. And interruption to hot water and heating again for your residents. So one of the devices that we do, we go into the home, it's basically will top up that system up. It will recognise that the boiler's dropped pressure, and before it breaks down, it will top up autonomously with no human involvement whatsoever. It's also intelligent enough to understand if there is actually a leak on the system, it's not going to keep chucking water in, and obviously you'll end up with a different problem. So leaks, low pressure call-outs, without any human involvement, there is technology there that can deal with that problem for you. And better than that, the system will report on how many times it's topped up to. So if you've got 500 properties and 227 top-ups autonomously, the resident doesn't have any interruption. They're none the wiser. Resident satisfaction's good, but it just means them 27 visits haven't had to take place. Expansion vessels, we can pre-test before you even go to site. You can actually pre-test expansion vessel issues before you go. Your first-time fix rates go through the roof, because if you've got a property and in that property maybe a particular boiler and it's fault code F75, we'll relay that fault code in real time instantaneously to whoever needs to know, and the fault code description. So what I'm saying is, before the engineer even leaves the stores, they know exactly what make and model it is, they know exactly what the fault is, they can see the diagnostics on any web-enabled device, so they should be able to then not have to turn up to that property and then diagnose the issue. They can literally turn up with the right parts on the van, or not make that journey if they don't have the right parts in stock and then rebooking another appointment. It's really powerful being able to understand what's gone wrong. Of course, reducing pressure on your call centres as well. That's another thing we can help with. And we understand there's a big, massive change in landscape at the moment with AWAB's law about to come in, etc., and around the damp and mould side. Nothing is going to just magically disappear damp and mould. That's not what we're saying. But what we can do is enable you to understand the risk levels and different parameters within the property. So metaphorically speaking, have eyes and ears, if you like, inside these properties. It's very, very difficult if people aren't putting their hand up and saying, I've got an issue, and then you find out 6 months later there's a disrepair case, but you never knew anything about it. But if you can understand the environmental conditions within room by room, which is what the system enables you to do, then you can jump on a problem before it becomes one. I've had a case recently. One of our clients, it's nothing major, but we reported a risk in the bathroom in the property. There wasn't any disrepair case there, and quite simply, I think it was a surveyor that went into that property, looked in the bathroom, straight away could see the issue. There's a fan, it's still working, but it was clogged up with all dust and gunk. Yeah, so it's basically ineffective. What they've done, they've put a new fan in, said to the resident, look, you clean it from time to time on the grill. That property has now dropped off the radar and has never become an issue. Now, it's just a simple case, but it's not just about the properties that you know where there is an issue. What this system enables you to do is understand properties that could have an issue and in what sort of time frame. So we'll be able to use AI and the data. You don't have to go looking for it. All of this comes through in reports. But you'll be able to use that report to ascertain, I've got these level of properties and these are the rooms as well, so you can start to find the root cause of the issue. So yeah, it's all geared up for trying to solve issues. I realise in the time as well, so I'm going to skip through these a little bit. But part of the thing on here is there was a report by the Regulator of Social Housing recently, and the Inside Housing published it, about the increased cost of maintenance. We've heard lots of different people talking about that today, so I won't go on. But essentially, the average home in 2023, I think it was about £2,700 on amount spent per home on repairs and maintenance. Now, that's an awful lot. One of the things I think with a system like Vericon, and there are others out there, so I'm not just saying just Vericon, but one of the benefits is when you're a DLO, that money comes straight back into your own organisation, which is brilliant. I couldn't emphasise enough how much better a system like this is for DLOs, because if you're paying like a PPP contract and you're outsourcing, sometimes there may be an argument to say, well, the contractor may be benefiting, but this system is the benefits come straight back to yourselves. So October 2021, the Spotlight on Damp and Mould report come out from the Housing Ombudsman, and I actually referenced in there about find your silence 5 times. Them words were mentioned. It was already in there. And I think it says there, landlords should implement a data-driven, risk-based approach with respect to damp and mould. This will reduce over-reliance on residents to report issues, help landlords identify hidden issues, and support landlords to anticipate and prioritise interventions before a complaint or disrepair claim is made. And then, together with residents, landlords, it's saying, should review the information, materials and support provided to residents to ensure that these strike the right tone and are effective in helping residents to avoid damp and mould in their properties. So having what Vericon do with their Home Hub app is we give them that data themselves, the residents. It's a free of charge app. It's very simple. It will just display the rooms that we're monitoring, where the sensors are, and it will give the temperature and it will give the relative humidity. And if there's a particular room within the property that may be consistently, and that's the word, consistently, in a sort of danger zone for condensation and damp and mould occurring, then it will actually alert the residents automatically, and it's AI driven as well, and give them support and tips. Things like, is there a fan in the bathroom? Is it working? Is it switched on? Have you opened your windows? Or we've noticed a problem in your kitchen, and particularly at tea time, are you putting saucepan lids on, that kind of thing. Just some really simple tips. But what we found is, from feedback, that giving the residents the ability and the empowerment to understand and educate them and understand how they can help as well can be quite useful. So it's just another thing to think of. So before I move over to my colleague Mike and get you, ladies and gents, involved, I'm hoping you'll enjoy it. I just wanted to talk about the adoption curve, like in anything in life, change can be hard, it can be painful. Some enjoy it, some are better than others, and that's really what this slide is about. So it's just something you don't have to sort of answer now, but just something to think about. You know, thinking of your own organisations where you work in your day-to-day lives, are you one of those early adopters, the pioneers in IoT? Because let's face it as well, I'm going to be completely honest, what I've just spoke about, not very well, but and giving you a very quick overview of it, it's a game changer, but it isn't easy because it is going to involve pain in getting the kit inside first, whichever provider you may pick. If you're going to use these tech and sensors, just getting through that front door itself, I know, can be a challenge. So it's not easy, but it is possible. You know, it's like when you get in the sea on holidays and you dip your toe in and it's freezing. You know, dipping your toe in gives you an idea that it's cold, but actually when you go get your shoulders under, all of a sudden it's actually all right and you can cope with it. And the tech, I think, is the way forward. I think the sector has to move with it, and it's really difficult. I understand that because it's multifaceted. It's not just a case of stick a few sensors in and away you go. There's a lot more to it than that, and we would certainly help you on your data journey and able to utilise that data. But are you one of those that, you know, the pioneers have gone in and put it in and trialled it, and then you think, well, we'll go for it ourselves and be an early majority? Or is your organisation one of those that thinks, oh, it's probably something we should start doing because lots of other people are doing it? Or, you know, are you like me, a technophobe, even though I work for a tech company? I'm not very good at tech. You know, one of those laggards. So you don't have to answer it to me, but on that note, I'm going to hand over to Mike. I think you've got some questions for us.
Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of an interactive quiz, so I'm just going to stand at the back like in a...
I feel like a DJ. You look like a DJ,
Yeah, I feel
Mike.
like a superstar DJ at the moment at the back.
Can you play us some songs?
Yeah, so we're going to do a little bit of an interactive quiz. So on the screen there, I don't know if you can get your mobile phones out. I don't know whether the QR code might be a bit too far away. You might be able to get up and scan that. Or you can just go into your web browser and type in kahoot.it. That's KAHOOT. .it. Once you get into there, it'll ask you for a PIN number, which is up on there, which is 4711057. And we've got people jumping in already. So yeah, you can put your name, you put your nickname, put your initials, put your organisation where you're from. We really don't mind. This is just a bit of an interactive part, just to try and get some engagement, all about IoT. You know, have you been using it in your organisation? What are your feedbacks from it? What do you want to kind of understand from it? Where are your biggest problems, and maybe where you would start from this? So, looks like we've got a few people coming up here now. 21, 22.
Does anyone need me to shine their phone at the QR code from up here? I can come and get it for you.
Looks like everybody's kind of getting this. I think this is probably coming from the old COVID days when everybody's been doing it on the quizzes online at home. So.
I like somebody. Look, someone's put DLO. I like that with a toad.
We've got some good emojis there.
Nick shit, very good.
Smashing. So we've got about 32. So we'll give it another few more seconds before we kind of get into the start. So
anyone having trouble getting on there? Or
yeah, does anybody want to put their hand up? Does anybody need a hand? Ooh. We're all right. So once we get into this anyway, so there'll be a series of questions. It's mainly a poll with some answers. Some of it will be scaled. I think there is one question where it's a free type. So I think you get about 20 characters and you can free type whatever your response is, up to 20 characters. But a lot of the polls will give you some suggestions to respond with. So without further ado, I think if we're all ready, I think we should go with that. Yeah, Tony? Yep. Okay, smashing. Okie dokie.
Fastest finger first.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. In which category would you place your organisation on this innovation curve that Tony's just spoke about in relation to IoT? So would you say that your organisation is an early adopter of technologies? Do you have an innovation lead who's driving lots of innovation in your organisation? Or is your organisation at the very back where technology usually comes in last, and you're one of the organisations that kind of takes up, many years after lots of other people have already been doing this kind of thing? So let's see if we've got that coming in. We've got 30 answers, which is brilliant. Okie dokie. So what have we got there, Tony? Looks like
early majority.
Yeah, nearly 40% of the early majority, yeah.
Fair play. That's really good.
Yeah, so it's only a very small percentage is actually saying their organisations are laggards. So that's really good, positive feedback that people are using this kind of technology as an early majority. Thank you.
Can I just say, Mike, before you go on to the next one, the reason we've done this is just to sort of gain your feedback, but also I would like to say on this that I think a lot of RSLs, given their due, they've really been keen to adopt IoT and understand and learn about it, and there are lots of different options out there. Some systems do this, some systems do more than others and different things, but I think something to think about. A lot of them are, well, as I said earlier, dip their toe in and trial it, and it's really, really difficult. This is just my personal opinion, but there becomes a tipping point, and it's going to be very hard to really reap the rewards of what this tech or similar tech can do, and there's a tipping point, and that's the thing. It's about being able to envisage the ROIs and scaling it up and looking at that vision to sort of push it on a program of works to get it out, that kind of thing. Anyway, sorry, beg your pardon, Mike.
All right, Tony, no worries, thank you. Okay, next one, this is on a scale from 1 to 5. IoT will help my repairs and maintenance team transition from being a reactive to proactive. So do you think this kind of technology will actually enable your organisation and your teams within DLOs to actually become a proactive organisation?
It's a tense moment at the Crucible.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got about 28 answers, that's great. Let's have a little look. So yeah, let's have a look. So it's like probably looking at 3.8 average. So extremely likely is number 5. So I would say number 4 is likely. So it's positive that so a lot of people in the room are actually understanding that this kind of technology can assist you and can help you become more proactive in your approach.
Does anyone want to, share some insight on this at all from the audience? I was going to say this: if you, whether you good or bad, whether you think, in the eyes of the question, really, whether you believe that it will help you become that proactive organisation, or do you think perhaps not? I don't know if anyone wants to.
Yeah, we've got some people who are saying not likely, so it'd be good to understand if. Thoughts and opinions.
Tony, I think we heard this morning, didn't we, from Believe about actually that proves the point.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest with you, and that if you're trying to be efficient, we all know that there aren't going to be enough people around to employ. So we're going to have a real balance of technology versus people as well. And where people want to explore more activities and they can't recruit, then they're going to either have to use their existing workforce and replace them with something else. Yeah. So I think that's the reality of life, and we've seen that about electric vehicles, haven't we, already? Yeah. There's something new on the horizon. People are starting to jump up on electric vehicles. I think this is the same thing. I mean, this is a bit of a hobby horse of mine, as you know, is that, we're working with asset management with 30-year plans, and guess what's in them still? What was in 30 years ago, what was in 40 years ago, which is kitchens, bathrooms. So evidence, again, we believe, around changing that philosophy around kitchens. Then if we're really, truly going to implement things that make us more efficient, then this has got to be one of those key work streams within a 30-year asset investment plan. Because if it's not, then we're just going to keep playing and tickling on the edges as we normally do as a sector, and then wonder in 5 or 10, 15 years' time why we've not adopted it and why we're not seeing the benefit of that. So I think people do need to go away and think about how this kind of technology is going to change, make a massive shift in terms of the way they operate. And again, I think we've seen evidence today from people, particularly at Believe, about if you can rethink, reimagine what you've got and utilise what you've got in a slightly different way, then I think the reality is that people will benefit from it. That's just a personal view, but that's what I believe in.
I agreed. Thanks, Russell.
Yeah. Thanks, Russell. Okay. Third one. What did you learn from any previous IoT projects delivered in your housing association? So have you piloted, trialed any sort of IoT devices out there? If so, this is a free type. You can type your kind of response in there, up to 20 characters, I think it is. So what did you learn from any previous IoT projects delivered in your HA? We'll give you a bit more time on this because it's a free text thing. It's not a multiple choice, isn't it, Tony?
Indeed. And just a bit, you know, a client, I won't name them, but they used a particular IoT supply. And this isn't to knock any others out, because there's lots of good tech. There's so much good tech. But actually, what they found was that it identified they had some problems, but they didn't know where. So it then leads on to, actually, now we realise what data we now know what we didn't know, but we need to know. So It's always conclusive.
You've got some answers come through. Okie dokie. Let's see what people are coming at. Aware tags. Don't get past pilot. We know that stage, don't we, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah. Hidden horrors. Some of these coming up there. Not tried any yet, so that's great feedback. Thanks very much for that. Say it is applicable. Some people have done it, some people won't have done anything. Boiler fault information and involving customers. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to pick anything out there, Tony, to maybe discuss. If anybody wants to put their hand up and maybe actually share some of their experiences with what they've used.
Does anyone, before I say anything, does anyone want to talk about an experience they've had, good, bad, or ugly? Okay. So someone's put there, gain customer trust. That's brilliant. If that's I think that's very positive. I think difficult to train. I think that's definitely an issue. One of the, the free, if you like, don't want to be negative, but goes blockers, if you like, to installing IoT at scale. There's always a cost to something, but that can be. There's different financing models now. Makes it much easier. But one of the things that is getting the kit installed, getting it in and getting engineers to install it properly. So certainly we do a lot of work, and we've been on a learning curve at Vericon where we find that the on-site support on installation days, holding their hand and not just selling some nice pretty little devices and letting them get on with it, really making them understand how it should be installed. So not just for them, but they can also explain to the residents when they're installing it as well. I think it is an education piece, and I think we're still learning on that, as are other suppliers. I'd like to think that we've certainly improved that. But yeah, anything else you want to pick out there, Mike? Yeah,
the only thing I was just going to do just before we next go on is that don't get past pilot stage. So you probably, not just with IoT, a lot of you might have done pilots in the past with lots of different innovative technologies out there, but they don't get past the pilot stage. So the way that we've been working with lots of people recently is actually, before we even get involved in the pilot stage, is like, well, what would this actually look like on a wider scale? Is it actually scalable? I start generating those conversations earlier. So the actual pilot stage is just the starting process to see if this is actually feasible and scalable to adopt throughout a wider stock portfolio. And is it going to deliver what you need? And actually setting out the agenda for the pilot instead of running away with the pilot that might get lost with for one reason or another, but actually setting out objectives for a pilot and key milestones within a pilot. We're going to do this for 3 months, 6 months, so we're going to have some regular meetings to see the progress of this and where's it going to get to, and if all the deliverables get met, how do we go through that to the next stage and actually seeing the value in rolling this out into a wider adoption.
Sorry, Tony, the one that gets me on that every time is the GDPR. We're being told by the Ombudsman, the regulator and the government we have to do better, yet we want to put this stuff into properties, yet we're then getting dragged down, but we can't do it because GDPR, the new health and safety thing, we can't do it because it's people's information, you can't win to a degree. So I think somewhere it's a bit like, I mean, Mike raised this point before around you can't say lifestyle, and now GDPR's got in the way. Somewhere along the line, someone's going to have to break some of that language and say, I'm sorry, but GDPR's just got to be, you've got to work around it, or you've got to work through it and say, I'm sorry, it can't stand in the way anymore, and there is a lifestyle thing that we need to talk about. It's elephant in the room, and we have to work through that. So I think some of that just, I guess it disturbs me, the fact we still have that same thing, or a block that we can't move beyond it.
It's been an issue. It's something I've come across a lot. I mean, on our portal, for example, when the data is entered and the sensors are installed, we only ask for a postcode and a UPRN. It's up to the client at the end of the day what they, tell the sensor where it belongs, where its home is. But in terms of the data itself, there is an argument I can see for and against. I can see that, the data is so powerful that you can tell from our equipment that sometimes if a property has got residents in there, you can tell. We can report if a property has been abandoned, or because we can see things like hot water draw off. So when we're monitoring a boiler or a heat pump, we can actually a boiler, we can see that the mechanical movement where someone's requested hot water. So there is an argument, and that's in real time as well. So I can see the fors and against, but I don't know the laws around GDPR. I know Vericon MD's been doing a lot of work on this at the moment, an exercise about whether the legitimate interest apparently overweighs the sort of the residents saying no because it's personal data. I mean, we try to be as very discreet with it as possible, and we try to bring the resident on board on that journey, that data journey. And I think there is an education bigger than today, bigger piece about actually changing the way that residents think, because data is everywhere now. They may not want a sensor in their home, but they may have an Amazon Alexa, a watch, a phone that's listening all the time, let me tell you. So just having a temperature and humidity sensor on the wall, it's a bit of a tough argument, but there we are. I mustn't go on.
Thanks, Tony. So just as you, Russell, just chatting then, so the other question came up were, what would be your main drivers if you were going to adopt this IoT technology? So the main two coming through there was, like you mentioned at the start, Tony, which is reducing operational costs, which is good to see, and free up resource within your organisation. I'll just move on because I'm just conscious of time. We've got a couple more. What's the main factor to consider when looking at a full IoT adoption across your stock? So what would you say, in your opinion, would be the main factor if you're going to roll this out across all of your stock? Is it going to be, like Russell just mentioned, what's going to be the main factor? Data protection. How are you going to utilise the data? So like Tony said, you're going to get lots of data back. So how are you going to use it? Understanding the benefits, installation resource, which Tony's just been chatting about, integration into other systems. How can you get that information, setting triggers to then send it through to a job management system, scheduling system to create a visit for the right operative at the right time to go and fix that boiler or whatever it may be, or is it budget constraints? So got 24 coming through, so I want a few more seconds and we'll see the results coming through. Okay. Let's have a little look. So, same budget constraints and how we utilise the data. So they seem to be the two that coming through, and then the one in green is integration into other systems. If you want to touch anything on that before we move to the next one, because I'm just conscious of time, because I know before Liz gets up there and drags you off. So.
That's interesting, actually. Integration to other systems, really, really important. They're all, to be fair, I think all of these are something to take into consideration because, as I mentioned earlier, 5 million data points a week. How the hell are you supposed to, monitor all of that? And if you've got this data suddenly landed on your lap, that's now your problem, and you're liable potentially. So it's really important to sort of understand how that data can be streamlined to get, as I said earlier, to the right people at the right time without causing you more work. The idea is it takes it away, it takes it off your desk, not puts it on there.
Yeah, the only one I was just going to pick out just before we move on, Tony, is that integration to systems. I mean, I've been talking to a few people recently, is that's all very well, great, you can read my boiler and you can tell me the fault code and when it's breaking, but what next? What happens after that? So the stuff that we've been talking with More IQ and Propeller and just actually streamlining that process so we can actually take that human element out of it. So boiler's breaking down, the boiler's feeling pain, let's get the right engineer to the right property at the right time with the right parts and really streamline that process. So, okay, and the last one we'll skip to. This is just a scale from 1 to 5. I'd prefer the IoT providers to digest the data on my behalf to streamline the workload and automate works orders. So just a little bit which I was touching on. So would you prefer to actually get the data yourself and interrogate it yourselves, or would you like to outsource that as to a data partner and kind of offload that burden on your organization? As I say with Tony, we're going to collect lots of data on your behalf. It's your data. Do you want to manipulate it and interrogate it? Or would you like a third party to do that and do the work on your behalf? Okay, let's show the answers on that one. That's the last one. So Luke, so yeah, strongly. So it looks like a lot of people would like that information being digested by a third party. And actually sent over to another system. So, okay, that's about it. That was just a bit of fun to get everybody's brain thinking about IoT and your journeys and where you're at, and a little bit from Tony and Vericon. So, thank you very much for your participation. It was greatly received. Thank you very much, and we'll hand you over now.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Mike.